Leland, and I'm a music photographer and journalist based in Southern Indiana. I've been doing photography for about 3 years now, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to shoot portrait photography. This is my gear right here. The body is a Nikon D3500. The lens is also a Nikon. It is a 60 to 80 millimeter with an f-stop of 1.2, and it's my normal lens. I use it for basically anything from weddings to portrait photography to concerts. This is my go-to. It's my favorite lens. Now, portrait photography can be basically used in any sense, whether that's you're shooting an event, you're shooting a sporting event, a wedding, a party. It's a big, it's a great way to basically expand your any horizon of photography. Now, whenever you are working with your camera, there are 3 main elements you want to make sure you keep in mind. These 3 elements are your ISO, your shutter speed, and your f-stop, or your aperture. Basically, what that means is your ISO is how much your camera lens is sensitive to light. That basically means the higher ISO is, the more light your camera lets in, but it also makes your image more grainy. Your f-stop is basically how much light your lens lets in. So I like to think of it as you're thinking of like how an eyeball works. So if you think about how if you walk into the sun, your pupils get really, really tiny because there's so much light. Or if you go into a really, really dark room, your eyeballs open up to let more light in. That's the same way on how your camera lens works. And your last element you want to make note of is your shutter speed. Your shutter speed is basically your images per second. I keep mine typically at 1/200, but I've bumped it up to 1/1000 before. But your key elements for portrait photography, you want to stay around, depending on your lighting, I normally tend to stay around 1/200 of shutter speed, an f-stop of around 4, and then an ISO, I try to keep that as low as possible, so around a 400 to 800 range. Now, in order to do portrait photography, you obviously need a subject. So does anyone want to volunteer to have any free portraits done of them? Alrighty, great. So, whenever I first start doing portrait photography, whether that be for a client or an event, I try to figure out what the main purpose is for why I'm taking that photo. For this instance, it's just to basically show how to work a camera, and I'm basically just going to start off everything by doing a test shot, just to make sure to see where my settings are at right now. See, if you look at the photo right here, it's very blown, it's overexposed. That means we gotta go in and we gotta adjust it. My typical thing I tend to adjust is the f-stop, so I'm going to bring that up to about f.63, and I'm going to turn my ISO down to around 400 to combat with the lighting here, and then the fluorescent lighting, and then the lighting bouncing off the back walls. So we're going to try this again. And see, that makes it too dark. So what we want to do here is we want to open up our f-stop. I'm going to increase my shutter speed a little bit, and I'm going to increase the ISO. Increasing the ISO tends to be a last resort for me because it increases the graininess of your photo. One more time. And see, and that's a bit better. I tend to, whenever I shoot portraits, I like to underexpose the portraits because in editing, I love to bump up the exposure, and I also love to even out the skin tones by adjusting the warmth of the image and the different oranges and green hues in it. So